Welcome to the World History 1 lecture series. At the end of each slide there will be a 10-second delay. Use this time to pause the presentation and complete your notes. When you are done, push play and you will move forward. This lecture will begin in 5 seconds. Welcome to World History Lecture 2.6 on the effects of Hebrew and Phoenician civilization. Throughout this unit, we have learned about the concept of civilization, and we know that civilizations have characteristics and effects. We explored this concept of civilization by getting a broad overview of two large ancient era civilizations, Mesopotamia and Egypt. And in doing so, we looked at the characteristic of religion, and we looked at the effect of international trade. But we really didn't look at these ideas in detail. Today, we're going to use two other ancient era civilizations to explore the characteristic of religion and the effect of international trade. For religion, we will look at the Hebrews, and for international trade, we will look at the Phoenicians. Go to the next slide. We learned that a characteristic of civilization is a proper geographic setting. But what happens if your civilization does not have a proper geographic setting? This is why we look at the Hebrews, because the geography of the Hebrews is going to directly impact their religion. The Hebrews lived in the Fertile Crescent between Mesopotamia and Egypt. Now we know that Mesopotamia has two rivers, fertile soil, and that the Mesopotamians are farmers. We know that Egypt has one river, fertile soil, and the Egyptians are farmers. The land of the Hebrews was arid, which means it was dry, and they herded domesticated animals. In other words, the Hebrews are sheep and goat herders. Now, due to their location, control of the area where the Hebrews live switches multiple times, and it negatively impacts the Hebrews. In other words, the Hebrews start out between two major ancient civilizations. Other civilizations will fight for control of the area, and the Hebrews are stuck in the middle. Let's look a little closer at the land of the Hebrews. The Hebrews lived in Canaan, which is modern Israel. Canaan was located between the Mediterranean Sea, the Jordan River, and the Dead Sea. And Jerusalem is the most important city of the Hebrews. Go to the next slide. Because of their geography, the Hebrews need a religion that is both movable and durable, because that religion needs to go wherever the Hebrews land up. So the Hebrews practice Judaism, which is the world's first monotheistic faith. The Hebrews are not worshiping multiple gods like their neighbors, the Mesopotamians and the Egyptians. Instead, the Hebrews are worshiping one God, and Judaism is based on these principles. The Ten Commandments is the first code of moral and religious conduct. A Jew knows how to live according to the Word of God because somebody wrote down the rules. The Torah is the story and belief of the Hebrews. The story begins at creation, and it ends as Moses brings the Hebrews out of Egypt and from slavery. More on that in a minute. Equality of all before the law of God is important because Jews believe that whether you are a king or a servant, God will look at all of us equally. And finally, Jews believe that they are judged on their deeds and not on their creed. For a Jew, it doesn't matter how well you pray to God. What matters is if you are living according to the Word of God. Go to the next slide. Another reason we study Judaism is because there are concepts in this religion that we find in a lot of religions. And one of those concepts is of prophets. Prophets are members of a religion who deliver messages that are believed to come from God. And in Judaism, there are two major Hebrew prophets. Abraham is the older of the two prophets. He is the founder of Judaism, who forms a covenant or a contract between the Hebrews and God. Moses leads the Hebrews out of slavery in the Egyptian New Kingdom. It's called the Exodus. Through a series of events, Moses is able to free the Hebrews, who are enslaved by the Pharaoh, and lead them back to the land of Canaan. On the way, he stops at a place called Mount Sinai, and he receives the 10 Commandments. Go to the next slide. Hebrews are negatively impacted by their geography, and you just heard of one time when this happened. Moses needed to get the enslaved Hebrews out of Egypt and bring them back to Canaan. Well, there are two other times in history where the poor geography of the Hebrews is going to hurt them. Hebrews are exiled from Canaan and sent to Mesopotamia, which is known as the Babylonian captivity. It happens from 609 BCE to 515 BCE. In other words, Hebrews are told to get out of Canaan, and they are captured by the Babylonians. Eventually, the Hebrews get back to Canaan, but Canaan is then taken over by the Roman Empire. We're going to learn about those guys later this year. This is what happens. There is a diaspora, or a scattering of the Hebrews. The Hebrews revolt against the Romans in 73 AD. They lose, and the Romans make the Hebrews move everywhere except Canaan. And if you look at this map of the Jewish population in 2010, you can still see the diaspora. You can see that Jews are scattered throughout the world. But Judaism has survived these events and is still a major religion. Go to the next slide. Now that you've seen the impact of poor geography on religion, let's look at the impact of good geography on an effect of civilization: international trade. And the best ancient civilization to look at when it comes to international trade are the Phoenicians. Phoenician civilization existed from 1500 BCE to 300 BCE. They are a sea trading civilization located on the Mediterranean coast from Lebanon to North Africa. Unlike the Hebrews, they are just far enough north to not be between the Egyptians and the Mesopotamians. Tyre is their most important city, and they established Carthage as a seagoing trading civilization. The Phoenicians make their livelihood by sailing around the Mediterranean Sea and trading goods. Go to the next slide. The effect of international trade on people can be seen through the impact of the Phoenicians on their neighbors. The Phoenicians create maritime trade routes. They sail the same way over and over again to trade with neighboring civilizations. They promote ancient shipbuilding, and most importantly, they are agents of cultural diffusion throughout the Mediterranean Sea, as they take what they learned in one place and bring it to someplace different. A modern example of this is McDonald's, which is a cultural icon in Saudi Arabia. The Phoenicians create an alphabet as well, and they do this to support international trade. The Phoenician alphabet is the foundation of our modern phonetic alphabet. We don't have the ABCs without the Phoenician alphabet. Thank you for watching this lecture, and I look forward to seeing you in class.